This is the What's Next podcast, Houston's #1 platform where I invite creatives to share their journeys and give us a depiction of their visions. Most importantly, the last question I'll ask is, what's next? Yo, Houston, Texas, this is episode number 72 of my podcast, man. The last day of June. The last day of the first half of 2020. Y'all gotta walk with me, man. Let's go.
Yo, it feel like 95. Chicken puffin' all that bone. More way get you more wet. Nah, that's these Bumanti. My crystal ball, I see crystal. Like crystal with that.
Houston, Texas. Welcome back to episode number 72 of the What's Next podcast, a production of Still Visionary Inc. Listen, you gotta pardon me. If I seem a little bit distracted, I'm listening to the Jadakiss and Fabolous battle as we speak. It's I've been waiting for this Verzuz for a long time. Both these MCs are my favorite MCs of all time. So I couldn't miss it, but I could not record the podcast as well, right? Having a couple of drinks too. Like I said, this is the last episode of June, and this is the last day of the first half of the year. So I'm here to drop. I'm here to run it. Let me start off with the social media handles so I can get that out the way. My name is John Ross Dike I, and you can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at John Ross Dike, my name, and still_visionary. If you would connect with me on LinkedIn, subscribe to my YouTube channel, like my fan page on Facebook, and visit my website at stillvisionary.com. That's stillvisionary.com. In front of you, directly in front of you, I have all my paraphernalia, the t-shirts that I have and made for display in this podcast. And, I'm a t-shirt guy, so holla at me. It's stillvisionary.com/apparel. Listen, I was watching some old footage from Visionary Movements LLC, and I was trying to create some space on my hard drive so that I could utilize that hard drive for other purposes. And when it came down to deleting, I couldn't delete, right? Because I'm a hoarder. I couldn't delete, so I'm a hoarder. But one thing I realized that I was saying on a vlog and on the old company, and I don't know if I have said this episode or this podcast or in this new company, but one thing I kept repeating and saying over and over again was that I'm appreciative of everybody who has watched, streamed, listened, shared my podcast. I spent a lot of time talking and saying, hey, you know what? I appreciate you. Thank you so much for checking out my podcast. Thank you so much for checking out my vlog. Thank you so much for following me, right? And I don't think that I've expressed that same gratitude on this platform, but to everybody who's watching and listening to this podcast and has watched and listened to previous episodes, man, I'm greatly appreciative from the bottom of my heart. I love you, and keep helping me out. Keep pushing me, man. But so here we are, man. Episode number 72. There are no features. I'm not making any phone calls. You get me for a period of 20 minutes or so, 20, 25 minutes, 30 minutes at most. And I got a surprise that I want to do. But so it's episode 72, and I'm here in my humble abode. Me and my wife, we closed on this house in April. So this is our first house inside the loop, inside the city where we belong. A few minutes drive from my job, and even less of a drive to her job. So we closed this place in April, and here we are. So every so often that I can't get into the white room, shout out to my man 3, every so often that I can't get into the white room, I'll bring the podcast here. I don't know now with the virus coming out if I'm going to open up the crib for people to come because I still want to be safe. But for the next couple of episodes, we'll be back on the telephone with a few people. So if you don't want to watch me sitting here by myself, what I think that you should do is stream it, listen to it. I mean, that's what a podcast is all about, listening. So check me out that way. Listen, this is what you should take from this podcast. What should people take from this podcast? This podcast drops every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And let me look again and say it. 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Not a second later. I might be late with the video portion, but the audio drops at 6 p.m. on the dot every Tuesday, right? And so what you should get accustomed to is you should have already subscribed to the channels so that way you already get it and you're not looking for when it is. If you have it, if you're subscribed to the channels, 6 o'clock is dropping. It might be a little later on Spotify and Apple Podcasts because the RSS feed does some crazy stuff from SoundCloud, but 6 p.m. and not later, right? So SoundCloud for everybody who doesn't have an iPhone, all right? 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, you should check out. You should be expecting a new episode. And, yeah, that's what you should take from this particular episode. Again, it's only me today. There are no guests. I'm not making any phone calls. It's only me. I want to close out the first half of the year dolo, talking to you about this podcast. Okay. Creativity comes from experiences. I asked that question because I believe that in that portion, when you're all alone creating something about yourself, right, it's an experience that you pull from. And what made me start making phone calls on the podcast was for the fact that I kept having dreams about bringing COVID home to the crib. And I would wake up out my sleep and I'd just be like, damn, I don't want to make anybody sick. I don't want to get my wife sick. I don't want to get my people sick. But at the same time, man, this journey, man, you got to keep going. You got to keep getting them tires wet. You know what I'm saying? You got to keep driving, keep pushing. So I didn't want to not stop the podcast. I didn't want to stop the podcast due to Corona. So shout out to my man, St. Mary. He told me about this machine. I went and grabbed it quickly. You know what I'm saying? Round of applause for St. Mary, man. I love you, man. Appreciate your love and support. Right? So I went and grabbed the machine and you know, it's made the podcast more interactive, right? But listen, COVID-19 is amongst us and you guys got to be careful. So many clowns be out here going out and partying and stuff like that amidst a pandemic. Yo, y'all got to sit in the crib and just chill. You know what I'm saying? Y'all gonna get people sick. And the reason why I said it is my man Echo Remix was supposed to be on 72, but he called me. He was like, listen, man, I don't want to get nobody sick, so could we push it back? And I appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? Because that's you looking out for yourself, not only for yourself, but the people that you're around. You know what I'm saying? Because he don't know who I'm around. And so I want to make sure, and he wanted to make sure that when we do this podcast, we don't leave getting ill. You know what I mean? So I appreciate him for that heads up, which really pushed me to doing this podcast by myself, episode 72. I don't normally like to do that, right? I don't normally like to do that because if I'm doing it by myself, know that I have projects that I'm finna break down for you so that all of the segments of the podcast make sense. But this episode, I'm just here to kick it because the marathon continues. Rest in peace to Nipsey Hussle. Okay. Listen. Again, like I told you, I'm listening to the Fab and Jada Verzuz. I couldn't miss it. Normally I like to wait for people to do the live thing with people. And then I like to come on after and watch after the allure's gone. You know what I'm saying? But I just decided today that I can do both, right? I think I'm doing a pretty good job. But this is what I really wanted to do with this episode, right? I'm on episode number 72, like I said. This is episode number 72. Playback, right? And when you start a journey on your own, right, you got to put in the work. You got to put in the work, right? And what I mean by that is that it ain't, for me, I've always equated projects to this. Some people have those Nas, Illmatic projects, Drake So Far Gone projects. I'm gonna even say Jay-Z, Reasonable Doubt. You know what I'm saying? Those projects, your very first project you put out, and it just changes the face of your career. And other people don't, right? And so I want to say that I haven't, right? Because my first project was like Grussel Diaries. And if you've been rocking with me for a long time, you know what Grussel Diaries is. And if you don't, you can catch it on a VM LLC 2012 YouTube page and see my acting career, right? So what I mean by that is people that don't have that first project that propel them got to work a little bit harder. And so as you're working, you're accumulating project after project, project after project, project after project, right? And so what that eventually comes about is now I'm at episode number 72. And for everybody who's now listening to this episode, right, when you look back and you say, oh, he's got 71 other episodes, it might be a little overwhelming for you to know where to start. So with this episode, I purposely intended that this episode would be an episode where I show you the clips starting from episode number 56 of the podcast and the segments that I feel really have pushed this podcast to the next level. And so you can make your decision whether to watch 1 to 55 or to start at 56 to present, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert in this moment clips from the previous episodes so that, you know, you can be caught up. Because I know it's a lot to consume. 72 episodes at an hour a piece, that's a lot to consume. So what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to give you maybe, I don't know, I don't want to put a time limit on it, but I'm going to give you some clips to entice you to want to go back and watch the full episode, right? Like I said, man, my name is John Ross Dike II. If you're listening to this podcast for the first time, I love you. If you're one of those 4 to 5 people I get on the first day that I drop on SoundCloud and 2 to 3 people that I get on YouTube that I drop every Tuesday, man, I love you even more. You need to holler at me so I can send you a gift, right? I want to say shout out to my homegirl, Asia Munns, has liked every one of my episodes. I want to say shout out, I want to say shout out to the love of my life, Kizzy Danae Ross Dike, my wife, my number one fan. I want to say shout out to Asia Munns, who watches every one of my episodes, right? I want to say shout out to those people that every time I close a day with the numbers, your vote is up there, right? And I don't know who you are, but you need to contact me and let me know so that I can give you some from the heart to you, right? So Houston, Texas, this is episode number 72 of the What's Next podcast, a production of Steel Visionary Inc. Check out the Playback. Peace and blessings.
Shot and killed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here is what's interesting. Mm-hmm. A good buddy of mine sent me something that he found on Google, and if I may be so bold, Google don't fail me now. Cause I don't want nobody here.
Young Pierre.
Wait a minute. So
what should people take?
From the single,
yeah,
I think it's just like a look into my mindset of how I view myself.
Okay.
And the way that I move.
Okay.
It's just kind of like giving people a look into, me being a self-proclaimed boss. Like, I don't need nobody telling me a boss because I already know that I am. Your
drive and ambition in this episode and the things you're accomplishing in LA, what should people take?
I would love if people, in regards to me, take away from this conversation that nothing can stop your God-given creativity, your God-given motivation, your God-given ambition, bosshood, or just simply how you are in the world and how you want to show up and what you want to do in your goals. Nothing can stop that. Thank you. Not a quarantine, not what the government's doing, not what's happening in the world. You can always find a way.
What should people take from your journey, from who you are, and this present moment and this conversation? What should people take?
You know, what should people take from this conversation?
Yeah, I'm interested to find that out.
I think for me, what I like to spread and what I like to, you know, just stand behind is that no matter what you have going on, you know, professionally, whether you're in love with your career, whether you hate your current job, or, you know, no matter how many different roles you play in things, you always got to make time for what you're passionate about and where your creativity lies. And all of that has to do with time management.
And I'm going to name one in particular. The NFL. The NFL, you got to holler at me. It is imperative that you holler at me because, and I know I've already commented on your post that you posted NFL, but you got to holler at me, and here is why. You posted a comment about how sad you are over what occurred in Minnesota, but your actions show different. Okay? Your actions show different. Okay? So don't talk to me about how saddened you are over what occurred in Minnesota when for the last 65 years, your actions have showed that you don't care about minority leadership. You don't care about females, female ownership or female coaching. You don't care about minority coaching and minority leadership. So the NFL, you were the same person that blackballed the person who took a knee for social injustice at the behest of police officers. So when you post that you are now saddened at what happened in Minnesota, you gotta holler at me. And if you wanna holler at me, you may hit me at Mr. Pierre Simon on Instagram. I'm happy to fly wherever I have to fly. We can sit and talk it out. The problem comes, I'm going to jump on Rashard Brooks' side for a second.
Correct. Go ahead.
There's something in every human called fight or flight. Okay? Now, I can't pretend to get inside of his mind and say that here is what he was thinking.
Yeah.
But we're less than at that time we were less than 3 weeks out of George Floyd.
Only thing I can say is if you have a vision and you have a dream and you have passion about something, step out on it. Stop letting people dictate what you should do with what you know God has put in you.
Okay.
Well, basically, if at the end of this conversation, people can take the concept of really just figuring out what you love in life and then figuring out a way to monetize it and then enjoying the journey. That's really what I would love if people can walk away with that. You know, just life is really too short to be doing anything you don't love. So the first thing is to figure out what you love, what sparks joy. And then the second thing is to figure out how to make money off of it. There's really no excuse to not make money off of something you love to do. There's so many ways to monetize really just about anything. So
what do you think that people should take from our conversation in regards to that?
I think there are several things. I think that as an artist, what you create needs to be reflective of the times in which we live.
Okay.
You know, if I can loosely quote Nina Simone, because that was her philosophy. And I'm sure we've all seen it circulating on Tumblr, on Instagram, because that's one of her more popular quotes. Our art needs to reflect the times in which we live. It's critical.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say too is that for the consumers, you need to understand that for a lot of Black people, much of the art we have is rooted in pain.
You know, I think that his anger, you know, came out due to what was going on in the world already. And now he was put in a situation where I have a background, and I even seen an interview with him on the internet, you know, talking about being a felon and, you know, how it's hard to find a job and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think he just had all of this built up in him. And when the opportunity presented itself, he did what he thought was best at that point in time.
Yeah. Houston, Texas, man. Round of applause. Yeah. Like I said, man, 72 episodes is a lot to filter through, right? And so I wanted to give you segments of the previous 55 to 72 is what, 17? 56 to 72 is 16. So I want to give you proof of the last 16 episodes, and not all of them, just a couple of them that I feel that the nuggets that they dropped in those episodes were like none other. So I had to give them to you, right? So Houston, Texas, man. In lieu of me listening to the Jada and the Fab Verzuz right now, right, and I'm still listening to it. The songs that are on my mind, for Kiss, I'm gonna go with "Still Feel Me," right, and for Fab, off of the mixtapes. I can't think of the mixtapes right now. Dang. I can't think of the songs right now, but it's Sacrifices. It's off one of his I don't want to look at it. It's Sacrifices. I can't remember what it is. No, hold on, give me a second. It's gonna kill me. Give me a second. I had it. It's off of let me look at my library. The Soul Tape 3, Sacrifices. Those are the two songs that are on my mind. Still Feel Me by Jadakiss and Sacrifices by Fab, right? So listen, man, I appreciate your love and support. Again, like I said, ain't no features this episode. It's all me. It's me, right? I'm not calling anybody. I'm not sitting with anybody today. I wanted to sit with you for episode 72, the closing of the first half of the year, and vibe, right? Today is June the 29th. And we have 185 days left in the year. And I have figured out where I want to go with the script that I wrote a couple of years ago. Let me talk about that. So a couple of years ago, when I was in between careers, I would say I had just left United Airlines, and now I am on the way to the school district. I had to work security for summer 2015. I worked security 2015, and I was working. I couldn't really do the job. It was overnight, and the last time I worked overnight was when I was in Orlando, Florida. So it was overnight. It was torturous. I would patrol and go to my car and sleep for like hours, right? But in the midst of patrolling, I had asked my partner at the time, I was like, hey man, why are some doors locked? And he was like, well, they got high top machinery in there, so they don't want nobody going in. I said, So it's crazy. 2015, we were going through racial discrimination as well. I think Alton Sterling had happened, Trayvon Martin had happened. Rest in peace to all of them. Oh, pause. Hold on. I want to say rest in peace to Breonna Taylor. I want to say rest in peace to George Floyd, to Rayshard Brooks, to Ahmaud Arbery. I cannot forget to say that. Rest in peace to them. But let me continue the story, then I'll move forward into what I was saying. So 2015, I wrote a short film, and I sent it to my editor. Her name is Tempest Green, right? Shout out to her. She just had a kid. And it was basically about the downward spiral that leads, according to American media, right? The media, all of these African-American heroes, I don't want to say heroes, but all these African-American soldiers that were murdered at the hand of police and people that weren't police, right? The media would get to them, and then they would portray them in a negative fashion. So from that aspect, I was like, well, I want to write about what leads to that, right? And so I wrote something about that. I gave it to Tempest. Tempest edited it. We were supposed to film it, but the time kind of changed. So I'm going to take that script and I'm going to modify it, switch it up, and basically, use the platform that I made and write something new, right? So I got where I'm going with it. It's funny, episode 71, when I was talking to my brother James, we spoke for 4 hours the other day. Can you believe it? 4 hours. And that's when I came to the realization of what I need to be writing about, right? So I look to try to get that done before the end of the year. Filmed, edited, I should say written, edited, filmed, post, and, in somebody's hands, right? Listen, man, I love this shit. Every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, your boy drops. Today is episode 72. Let me take a drink. Right now, Kiss is playing a song with Biggie Smalls. And listen, I told my man Phil and Mike that Kiss was gonna win. By the way, Kiss for me is gonna win this battle. I just think that Kiss's 16s are harder. You get the worst thing you could do with an MC is give him 16 bars on a song that he just features in. You give him the hook is already done. You give him the topic of the record, and they just go. And there's no way, if they only playing verses, there's no way that you beat him, because that's what he does. He doesn't have to worry about making a whole song or marketing the song or doing anything like that. He makes the verse, and the verse is the top. The best 16 bars that he can think of, he puts on paper. I just think that, he gonna kill Fab. And I love Fab too, but Kiss is in my top 5 of all time. Okay, listen, like I said, this is a quick turnaround episode. I don't have any projects to give you. All I have is that this episode's got to continue, right? This podcast has got to continue. So, where was I gonna go? Okay, but oh man, where was I gonna go? I was talking about Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and all of them. The thought slipped my mind. Anyway, be careful, right? I think that people need to be careful. It's like James said in episode number 71, you got to make it home. So you got to know your surroundings. You got to make it home. It's like Pierre said in episode 70, right? We got to understand what we're up against. We've got to have a strategy, have a goal in mind. You know what I mean? I want to say that this week is the last week of summer school, and it's been a tumultuous year, right? We started off in the school year, the virus broke out, and the class of 2020 didn't even get to have their prom, or we didn't. At Waltrip High School, we do an annual faculty student game. We didn't even get to play that. So, man, to all the graduates of 2020, man, I want to say thank you for adjusting and doing what you could do in the times that that you have. You can't change what you have presently, but you can adjust, and I appreciate you for adjusting for that. To the class of 2020 at Waltrip High School, man, I love y'all. You were the first class that I coached basketball wise, so I got a lot of love for y'all. Yeah, man, but this virus is out again. Y'all need to stay at home. Be responsible. Stay at home. Binge. And I'm not saying binge all 72 episodes. What I'm saying is that, check out my podcast. It's up and available. And what I haven't said before is, you need to give it to somebody else. I'm ready to run the city. And a lot of creatives that should be on this platform. So if we haven't conversed about their story, then that's on you. So in the next 185 days, you need to find people be like, hey, you need to holler at John Ross, because he's got the platform for you to talk about your story. James, my brother, he been a Mason for how long now? You know what I'm saying? And I always told him, listen, we're going to get this podcast going because your story got to be told. Check out episode number 71 of my podcast now on my website, on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify. It's playing. So yeah, you need 185 days left. You need to find somebody that you know is creating and shoot them my way so that we can meet and have a conversation. That's one. Two, listen, my podcast, the name of it is written a certain way. It's What's. There is no apostrophe. It's just WHATS space next exclamation mark question mark. And I did that for a reason. That's coming soon. I'll explain that at another time. Right? So when you write it, it's not what's like what is, it's what's next exclamation question mark. All right. So most importantly, the last question I'll ask is what's next. Okay. And for me, I have a real estate exam drop day, which is the 30th of June. Right. So the next time I record, you'll know if I'm moving on or if I have to take the test again. So y'all pray for me. Yo, Houston, Texas, man. You already know what I do. You already know what I came to do. I came to run it. 72 episodes in. June 30th, 2020. Right? I got 28 left. Episode number 100. Who knows? Jesus Christ. What am I going to do? I'm open for suggestions. Yo, I love you. I do what I do for myself.
Yo, it feel like 95.
To prove.
Sachi on my body.
I do what I do for myself to prove that I can do it for others. Peace and blessings.
No valleys, no Pilates. More weight get you more wet. Nah, that's these Spumante. My crystal ball, I see crystal. I crystal y'all with that. I saw the sign like ace of spades. That ace of spades get cracked me like cheers to the money. The Willie niggas who buy them bottles and then they spill these liquors. Yo, salute my dude. I see you, dog. I know I'm out of line, but love is shower time. You know it rose rain when your cloud is high. Get on that high ass hustle. This a private party. Been on my dick too long. No breath on private party. You gon' be nice and naughty. These walls on priceless arty. This the upper crust. Fuck is up. Over and done. Overdose. Guess we did it again. Sipping with no remorse. We gon' do it again and we gon' do it again. What we doing again? Overdose. Yeah. Overdose. Yeah. Overdose. Yeah. Overdose. Yeah. Overdose. Overdose.